Hello, my VIPs. The air's about to turn off soon, but not there it goes. Okay, so I didn't know whether I should do another episode video or if I should continue on with doing season 2 of Teen Wolf, the analysis. Not really an analysis, it's more like a review, but I didn't know whether I should do that or not. I'll probably do both, shit, but I don't think I have anything to do tomorrow, so I may just do an episode for tomorrow, and then this one's gonna be the Teen Wolf season 2 analysis, kind of. So yeah, let's get into it. Recap. This is gonna be season 1's recap and whatnot. So as you can see at the end of season 1, Peter Hale is dead because he was killed by Derek Hale. Derek Hale is the new alpha. Lydia survived Peter Hale's bite, but she shouldn't have been able to, so we still don't know what she is. Jackson got bit by Derek Hale, the new alpha. So we're trying to await and see if he turns into a wolf. What else? Scott is not technically an Omega. Like, I think that's one detail I did not mention much at all, was that Scott was bit by Peter, and Peter bit Lydia, but since it didn't go through, she's not technically part of Peter Hale's pack. The only one who successfully was turned by Peter Hale was Scott. So Scott is now technically an Omega, you know? That until we get to see why he's not an Omega. We're gonna see in a minute. What else at the end of it? Ooh. Oh yeah, Kay Argent is also supposedly dead. What else? Chris Argent. Oh, this is what's gonna go into season 2. This is gonna go more in the beginning. But anyways, Styles is still Styles. Scott's mom and Styles' dad still don't know that werewolves exist. Allison's parents know that Scott is a werewolf. And so, yeah, we're going to get into season 2 now. At the beginning of season 2, episode 1, we get to see that Scott is more comfortable with being a werewolf now. He gets to, have his head poked out the window, smelling the air. Not like a dog, basically. Like, he's more confident in his strength when opening certain items, like unlocking a door and whatnot. He just be casually, plopping it off, like picking up an article of clothing and shit. He just be plopping off locks off of doors and just be handing it to, that's later on, but he handed the Styles and whatnot. You know, he's fast. Like, he shows off his speed more and whatnot. They do this weird thing in season 1 and season 2 where they literally run on all fours. Like this. Like this. Like, fucking hell. Oh my gosh. I should never do that shit again. Yo, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. But child, anyway. That was fun. I'm more awake now. But child, anyways, that's how they be running. They be running on all fours and shit, and they're human. So it's like, but they're werewolves. But it still doesn't look right. And while he's doing this, he's never shape-shifting. Like, there's no hair on his cheeks. He's not really using his claws. There's no fangs. It's like you're a normal human doing this shit. So it's weird shit. It's very weird. So yes, that's the gist of it. Scott is more comfortable being a werewolf and whatnot. Now, in season 1, Scott dealt with Derek a lot more like Derek dealt with him. There were times where they would train together. He would go over to Derek's burnt down ass house and stuff like that. In season 2, it's kind of like Derek is doing his own thing. We get to see a little bit more of how Derek's actual personality is, you know? He's more so, I don't know if it runs in the Hellpack family to be a bit more selfish than everybody else, but Derek is going to show he's a bit more selfish than everybody else, and he does acts that are beneficial to other people, but they're really more so to suit himself. So anyways, we're going to get into it. Before we fully get into it, the Argents as well, like I mentioned before, they know that Scott is now a werewolf now. So in episode 1, it basically shows whenever Scott is going out into the woods or somewhat, there's traps everywhere and whatnot, and Chris Argent loves to threaten Scott. Also, he's not supposed to be with Allison. They had to stage a breakup so that the Argent parents weren't all mad and shit anymore. So yeah, it went to the point where even Scott's mom, Melissa, had to also make sure that Scott was no longer with Allison, stage breakup and whatnot. So she didn't even know that they were getting back together in secret. He would sneak up in her house, and that's when you would see him run on all fours away back to his own home, because he would be in her room. They'd be screwing, and yes, I say screwing, in her house. Like, and you know what? Okay, this is a little side note. Scott only has his mom at his house. She is a nurse. She works double shifts, if not all night, overnight. multiple times. Like, that's the thing. She works so oftenly that he has the house to himself majority of the time. So he could just have Allison over at his crib. And yes, I know Allison and him aren't supposed to be together, and her parents are strict. So it's like, how is she gonna be able to go over to his house? It's more so like she could lie and say that she's at Lydia's house. Allison and Lydia are best friends. You know, Lydia has come over to Allison's house before. So it's like Allison could just lie and say she at Lydia's house. Lydia could cover for her, and then she could be over at Scott's crib, and they could be doing whatever. But Scott doing all this shit is so unnecessary. Like, the Argents have a bunch of fucking weapons, bro. They have so many guns. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you risking it all? For cool? Like, I can't. It's so crazy. So how Teen Wolf does it, they introduce certain characters, and it's like they want you to not exactly know what these characters are going to be as, but it's kind of become more obvious as the show goes on. Some characters you ain't never seen before, they're going to be important for the season. And it's so obvious now. Like, bro, season 2, you see a nerdy dude with a camera and whatnot because he is photographing Allison when she's not looking. Not photographing. He's taking photos of her when she's not looking. He's a creep. Even when they went to the funeral, because Kate Argent had a funeral because she supposedly died. They went to the funeral, and this weirdo nerd-ass kid, I keep forgetting his name because I don't like him, but I'm going to just call him, like, Mason or some shit like that. Mason be photographing Allison when she's not looking. He went to the funeral just to make photos, like take pictures of Allison. And I was just like, this is some creepy ass shit, right? Now, this is where we get an introduction into a new character named Gerard Argent, the father of Kate Argent and Chris Argent. At Kate's funeral and whatnot, he kind of just comes unexpected, more so. He's the type of grandfather to Allison to where he sends money, but she never actually sees him. Like, she's only seen him once when she was like, what, 5? So she hasn't seen this dude in years. He usually sends money on her birthday and whatnot, just as a gift and whatnot. So to see him at this funeral, it's like, oh shit, how's Allison supposed to feel? She doesn't know this man. But Chris knows this man, and how Chris reacts to Gerard, he kind of seems like the obedient son who actually never really agrees with his father on things, but he's too afraid to actually stand up to the man. That's what Chris looks like. And Kate and Gerard never really actively meet, which I found the weirdest because later on she comes back, but like they never actually meet. So it's like, I don't know how their reaction is, but I feel like how it would go is that Kate is more like her dad. It's obvious she's more like her dad. How Gerard is, he is ruthless. He's a ruthless dude. He doesn't give a fuck if you're a kid who just got turned into a werewolf without like wanting to be a werewolf. He doesn't care. He doesn't see you as human anymore. He's just like Kate, but he's even worse. You know, Kate loves Chris Argent. You know, she loves her brother. So it's like, if he didn't want a certain thing, she would actually listen to him somewhat. Like, that's the thing, is she would actually respect how he felt about things. Even if she disagreed, she would never, like, you know, completely, you know, disrespect him. She'd disobey him, but she would never really, she never full blown was just like, oh, doing it because she doesn't care about his feelings. She actually gives a fuck about Chris and his feelings. But Gerard is different. He don't give a shit. Okay? He don't give a shit about anything. Okay? And if, like, Chris were to combat him on such things, which he never really fully did. A few times he did, but that's later on in seasons. In season 2, he ain't really ever did that shit. Because I don't know what it is. But Gerard is ruthless. I gotta tell you, he's very old. He's went against some very powerful werewolves. He went against alphas. He blinded an alpha, bro. Like, that's in season 3A. That season is goated, bro. Like, I can't. Season 3A, season 3B, top tier. I don't know how the fuck they did it. But, like, bitch, like, we love it. We adore it. But we're talking about season 2, where it's more of an introduction to a lot of the characters we're going to be seeing later on in seasons. So, yeah, we introduced to Gerard. We see he's ruthless. And how is he ruthless, more so to say? Later on, we see him chop Omega in half with a sword. Not chop, slice. I'm so stupid. Slice an Omega in half with a sword. So Derek and Scott were in the woods. Scott was more so in the woods. I think he was just spying on Gerard because he never knew who that man was, I guess. I don't really know. And Derek was also in the woods, but he was in the woods when Scott didn't know he was in the woods. So he basically snuck up on Scott, and then he shushed Scott, and they were witnessing Gerard cut an Omega in half. Just slice him in half, right? And Gerard just like, I don't care if it's some lost soul who thinks they are getting some great power, and I don't care if it's a child who doesn't know what they're doing. I don't really care if you never asked to be a werewolf. I don't care. You know, we're gonna kill them, and we're gonna kill them all. Referring to werewolves. That just gives you all you need to know about this man. He does not see, he's not, it's like you can't call him evil, but you can. He's actually evil. But Chris and Kate have done some bad things as well too. They've killed werewolves before. Chris has killed werewolves. He's just not to the magnitude as his sister and father. His sister and father have lost parts of their humanity to combat these things, because most of these werewolves are kids. So in order to kill them, you have to get rid of the thought in your head that these are actually children, and some of them never asked to be werewolves. But that doesn't matter now because they're no longer technically human anymore. They're monsters. But Chris don't think like that. Chris actually does have somewhat of a heart. He made the moral code for a reason, where you don't kill pregnant women, where you don't kill children, and you don't kill werewolves who've never killed before. He made that code for a reason, because he actually cares, bro. So that's what I'm trying to hammer into you. He is the polar opposite of his dad, and what makes him not stand up to his dad is because his dad is insane. Like, his dad is ruthless as fuck. That's why he doesn't stand up to him oftenly. But y'all, anyways, we get into other characters as well that are introduced. Oh yeah, also after being sliced in half, Derek and Scott never get caught. They actually ran back and stuff like that. Because one, it was not only just Gerard and Chris. It was a fuck ton of hunters. Like, there was so many hunters there. We're not gonna fight them all. One is an alpha, yeah, sure, but Derek didn't even show that he had alpha power like Tucker would. Like, you know how alphas have different powers? His mom had the power to remove people's memories. However, we never got to see Derek's power. Like, you know, that's the thing. As an alpha. Or at least I didn't see it. Maybe it's just the longer you're an alpha, the more your power will manifest, I guess. I don't know. That's just the thing. I'm going to tell you about my theory when it comes to the Hell Pack and Derek's mom, like more so at the end too. So yeah, we're getting into it. Derek, as an alpha, needs a pack to make himself stronger and to have stronger allies. He cannot recruit Scott into his pack because how Scott is, he's already a leader. And you'll see that in the middle of season 2 after Derek gets his own pack. Scott cannot be made into a beta by just any alpha. You know, even when Peter was there, Peter could not fully get Scott on his side. He couldn't get Scott on his side at all. Peter got Derek on his side, but he could not get Scott on his side at all, because Scott is his own alpha in a way. Like, he's literally, you cannot tame him. You cannot proceed over him and shit like that. You can't. He's too dominant for you, bro. Like, dead ass. But why I speak like that? What the? Oh my mothers are like that type shit. Like, oh my god. I can't. Sorry, I'm being silly. We're introduced to Erica, Boyd, and Isaac. They all have their own backstories, so bear with me and whatnot. It makes sense for the season. That's why I'll explain it. We start off with Isaac. Isaac is he's kind of the most important one out of these three, okay? So basically, Isaac was abused by his dad, who was a swim coach. His dad puts on this persona of a charming older man and whatnot, mature and whatnot, but really he be throwing like plates and mugs at his son's head and stuff like that. He be locking his son in a cooler that barely can fit a human in it. And his son is tall. Isaac is tall. So he has to scrunch up his fucking legs and stuff like that to be in this cooler. And Isaac has suffered that for years. And Isaac mentioned when he was a kid, his dad was not like this. So it's kind of like what prompted his dad to be like this. But I don't care about that because I never liked his dad. So we first see Isaac. He is a grave digger. I think that's it. He works as a grave digger and whatnot. We first see him. He has a blackened eye. And his father tries to interrupt him and tell the police lady, because people were digging up graves and whatnot. And Isaac didn't know what was going on. He's like morning shift and stuff like that. He's not night shift, I don't think. But Isaac had a blackened eye. And the cop person was just like, you all right? And his dad covered it up. His dad abuses the fuck out of him, basically. So, why I say it like that? Abuses. I could have just said abuse. But yeah, we're introduced to Isaac like that. Troubled kid. you know, daddy issues, but like at the same time, I kind of understand why he has issues with his dad. His dad literally fucking abuses him. So it's like he locks him in a cooler, he punches him dead in his face, he throws like, you know, glass plates and cups at his fucking head. His dad is horrible. Like, bro, good thing he dies though. So, oh my gosh, no, that's not good. What is good? Because he's terrible. He almost killed a kid. And you'll get into that. I gotta get into the villain after I get into these three, okay? After I get into these three, why I do that? After I get into these three, I gotta get into the villain. So yes, then we have Boyd. Boyd we're introduced to when Styles has to, like, you know, get keys from Boyd. I think it's to a janitor's closet or something in the school. And so Boyd is just like, where's my $50? And then Styles tries to, like, you know, he tries to get out of giving Boyd $50. He gives Boyd 20. And he was just like, and Boyd looked at this shit and he was just like, nah. And then Styles is just like, okay, nice crispy 40. And Boyd was just like, and Styles was just like, come on, man, you see the piece of crap Jeep I drive in? And then Boyd was just like, you see the piece of crap bus I ride in? Like, that's the thing. And then Styles gave him that extra 10, making it 50. And Boyd smiled. He was just like, and I was just like, this asshole. Like, I can't. They're both being assholes right now. Well, mainly Styles. Styles is being an asshole. But yeah, that's what we're introduced to Boyd and whatnot. We love the sense of humor. He's relatable. And that's just one. I feel like he should have gotten more of a moment. Actually, he does. And we're going to talk about that later. Because Isaac and Erica were recruited first and stuff like that. I did it, like, backwards and stuff like that because Isaac's story is more important. Boyd's story is a story that had potential to be more important, and that's why I mentioned it before Erica. Now we're mentioning Erica and whatnot. But with Boyd, he attends school there. Isaac attended school there too, but I don't think he was shown as much and whatnot. You know, he used to be in ROTC. He has a troubled past as well too, with a missing sibling. Something happened, and I feel like they should have expanded upon that. But they didn't. Also, he has a friend who had passed as well, and it was on, I think, the school news in there as well. So it's like he has those things, and he has a past that could have been explored more. I hated that it wasn't. We have Erica. Erica is someone where I mentioned in season 1, recap and whatnot. Not recap, but thing. I mentioned people can have certain things wrong with them as a human, and when they become a werewolf, it's not cured. It is just delayed. Like, it's like taking a vaccine for a virus. You're never actually cured for it. You just have more prevention, you know? So it's kind of like that, you know? She suffered from seizures. She could not do certain activities in PE. Like, they had to do climbing the wall or just rope climbing in general. She can't do those things. You know, when she gets too tired or too stressed, it causes her seizures. I don't think that's how seizures are actually normally caused. So don't quote me on that. I probably will look it up later how it is. But yeah, you know, that's how her is. So she troubled past as well. 3 people with troubled past, man. Like 3 people with troubled past. Erica, she also suffers from lower self-esteem as well. You know, she's a sick child. Like, you know, she suffered from seizures. She couldn't do certain activities, and we don't really even see her have friends either. So it's like, damn, you know. Same for Isaac, and it's same for Boyd, and you'll see why I mentioned Boyd with that too later on. But anyways, Derek went to Erica first. Actually, he went to Isaac first, and then he went to Erica, and then he went to Boyd. Boyd came to him, but and so did Isaac, but that's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm just adding shit now. I'm adding shit because it's just like, oh, God, trying to remember this. I've been through 6 seasons, guys. Technically 8 seasons if we're really doing this shit. But anyways, Derek went to each of them proposing an idea of what they all wanted. Erica wanted to be stronger and not suffer from seizures and have more confidence. He made her into a werewolf. She no longer suffered from those seizures. She felt more powerful, faster. She felt like she could see more, smell more, hear more. It made her feel like she was more than what she was prior. So that's why she came up in that building. She wore clothes that were different. She was wearing leather when it was hot as fuck outside. I think she had cheetah print on. I was just like, oh, she had her hair down because she usually wore it in like a nursing type of ponytail type shit. Like, she came up, she had boots on. I was just like, this girl flexing for real. I love it. I adore. Isaac the same way too. Why y'all wearing leather when it's hot as fuck outside? Like, bro, I know the building may be like cold and shit because they put the temperature on, but still, it's like, bro, you go outside, you're instantly baking. Like, bro, what? Like, I get. Isaac had went to Derek. I'm doing it in this order for a reason. Erica, then Isaac, then Boyd. Isaac went to Derek, you know, because he wanted strength. His father was abusing him repeatedly, okay? Repeatedly. He wanted to feel stronger so that the effects aren't as bad when he gets abused. Basically, he wanted to be strong enough to stand up to his dad because he couldn't prior. His dad basically, you know, not only being a swim coach, but just being athletic in general, he couldn't beat up his dad. Like, Isaac is a tall but kind of lanky dude. He can't really fight his father and win, okay? So that's why he became a werewolf and all that type shit. So yes, we're gonna talk about what happened to his father later on. It has something to do with season 2's whole plot and shit like that. So we get to Boyd. Boyd's reason. Y'all gonna hate me for like saying his reason, or no, you're not gonna hate me because I ain't do shit. But you're gonna be like, what the fuck? That's a reason to become a werewolf? He simply did it because he wanted more friends. He wanted more friends. He was tired of sitting alone at the cafeteria. Dead ass. Yes. Like, that's the thing. You may not believe it, but yes. And how we find this out is that at the end of like episode 2 or episode 3, we find out, like, Scott at least finds out that Boyd is about to be turned into a werewolf. He doesn't know that Boyd was already turned, basically. But he finds out where Boyd works, because Boyd works at the ice rink and whatnot, be, like, buffing up the ice and shit like that. So, yeah, he found Boyd and was just like, hey, you know, you don't have to do this. Like, you know, that basically is, like, you know, why do you want to become a werewolf? And Boyd was just like, you know, I just don't want to sit alone at the cafeteria table anymore. And Scott, like, Scott is charming, okay? Scott was just like, well, hey, there's other ways. Like, you know, you don't have to do this, man. Like, he was smiling and be like, you don't have to do this. And I was thinking in my head, just like, that made me feel so bad because Boyd deadass really could have just been Scott's friend. Like, bro, you tired of sitting at the in the cafeteria table by yourself? Like, bro, Scott, like, deadass, become Scott's friend, bro. Because honestly, you don't have to become a werewolf in order to do that. But I guess he wanted camaraderie because he's used to it. Like I said, he was in RTC. He did have friends. Like, he did have a friend at least that we mentioned canonically, right? But she's literally deceased. I think that you know, some of his friends probably aren't even at that school anymore, probably. So he feels alone, basically. He did it because of loneliness. So it's like, damn it, you could have been Scott's friend, fuck. But then Scott was like dogging out Derek. He's just like, you don't want to be part of his pack, bro. Like, you know, there's other ways, like, type shit. But then Derek came up in the scene. He was just like, oh, that really hurts my feelings, Scott. He just taunting. Derek really thought he was big shit when he was alpha, and I love that. He got a whole new sense of confidence, bro. He talks more, like, because in season 1, he ain't talk more. He would talk more in threats and in, like, glares, rather than just actually straight up being a menace. Like, I love it. We adore it. And he look good with red eyes. Like, ugh. Don't do that. Tyler Heckling, the actor for Derek. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, like, I can't. This cast for Teen Wolf, they're all so attractive. Like, I don't understand how you find most of these people. What? And they're good at acting. How you do that? How you make them fine? How you make them attractive and good at acting? How the hell you do that? Tell me your secret, please. But yeah, anyways, I can't. So yeah, Derek pop up at the scene with Erica and Isaac. Basically, because they're part of his pack now. They're both wearing leather and stuff like that. Now they have a reason to wear leather because it's not hot as fucking in an ice rink and stuff like that. So they have reason to. Like, no, this was a ghetto ass fight though. Wait, I'm gonna get into it. So yes, you know, Scott basically is trying to prevent Boyd from being turned into a werewolf, from getting bit by Derek. So he fights Derek, right? But Derek deadass was just like, you know what? Since you want a problem, I'm gonna give you one. And then he had sent Erica and Isaac to go fight. They're fighting on ice, guys. Ghetto as shit, just slipping and sliding and slitting all the place. Like, why? Like, you know. And when I tell you, oh my gosh, that's why I love season 2, season 3A, and season 3B. Bro, Scott bodied both of them. The disrespect is immeasurable. Their day was ruined. Like, no, actually, bro, after he got done, like, whooping their ass, basically, he slid them across, like, okay, I'm gonna show you. Hold on. Okay, so that right there is Erica, Isaac, and Scott, right? Scott basically has both of them, like, he basically whooped on both of them, and they're right beside him, right? You know, all that type shit. Let's put some stuff right here, like just the they're most of these are empty. So they have this is Erica and Isaac, right? Derek is right here. I will show you farther, but I have a bunch of water bottles over there, and yeah, mind your business. Okay. So what Scott does, right? He slides their ass. Like, he didn't even move that much. He used his arms and slid their ass all the way to Derek, bro. Disrespectful as hell. Okay. And it was across ice, so I knew it had to hurt because their face was exposed. Yeah, they wore leather and stuff like that, but their legs were exposed, their face was exposed, and they were whooped upon, bro. They were actually injured. Like, I was just like, bro, but they weren't like bleeding and all that type shit. It's just like you could see visible marks. I was just like, damn, Scott. And Boyd is witnessing all of this, right? Boyd is witnessing all of this. And then Derek was just like, oh, fine, I just have to do it myself, like a fucking anime character. Like, I can't. I love Derek, but oh my gosh. So he goes up, he turns, and like, does that type to show the fangs, the claws, and the hair on his thing. And I love how they look as werewolves too, y'all. Like, I love it. I have to show y'all pictures after this. Like, oh my gosh. But y'all, anyways, he fought against Scott. Scott already whooped on 2 people, so he kind of was tired. Okay, he was a bit. He had one sweat drop probably. They're in the ice rink. He probably didn't sweat at all, but like still. He fought against Derek. Derek won. Like, because Derek's a good fighter. Okay, let me just be honest with you. Derek's been a good fighter since he was a kid. Okay, it's gonna show in later seasons when I talk about them in other videos. Derek's always been good at fighting, right? So he was gonna whoop on Scott anyway. Okay. Thing is, Scott wasn't as injured. So yeah, right. After he put the hurt on Scott, Scott still made one final plea. Like, Derek had called Boyd to them. Scott made one final plea, just like, hey, you don't have to do this. Don't do this. He's saying this from the ground, by the way, because he was tired and hurt. But Boyd looked down at him, and he's just like, I'm sorry, but, like, he did some shit like, I'm sorry, but I already did. And it's like, imagine a bite mark right here. My skin. Imagine a bite mark right here. Derek had already bit Boyd. The whole time they were fighting, Boyd's just looking, and he's just like, damn, all this so that I don't become part of the pack. Like, on some real shit, he was already bit by Derek. So there was no point in all of this. Like, that's what sucked him more. And Scott was fighting because he didn't want Boyd to be turned into a werewolf by Derek, right? It's not even always a chance that you would survive a bite like this. Like, that's what sucks even more. It's like, as the show goes on, they forget that if you're a human, you're not always going to survive getting bit by a werewolf. They forget that, right? So in this one, it's kind of like you're already bit by Derek, but you could have died. Like, that's another thing. He could have actually died from that. So it's a risk. It's a literal risk to become a werewolf in this world. So yeah, he saw that, and then just like, no, Scott saw that, and he was just like, no, you don't have to become like them. Like, don't be like them. And Boyd was just like, I don't want to be like them. I want to be like you. And I was so happy for that. I damn near wanted to cry. I was just like, you see, he sees his greatness too. Like, I was just like that. Like, it did something to me, because I was just like, that was so nice to say. Like, respectful as fuck, because deadass, Scott really did fight 3 people just so that you don't get turned into a werewolf, because he feels as though it would not be as good for you, and you possibly could have died from it. And Boyd saw that, and he was just like, you know what? I don't want to even be like them. I want to be like you. I want to be able to whoop ass like that. I want to be able to stand up to 3 people and still talk about shit. Like, I want to be able to believe in something like that. Like, that was very nice to hear when I saw that. I was just like, at least he didn't lose completely at the end. Like, Scott didn't lose completely at the end. I mean, shit. How could you not respect this dude? He didn't fight for himself. He was literally fighting so that this other person doesn't, end up with a fate such as werewolf. Because it is a risk to be a werewolf. There's so many hunters. There's too many hunters. Why are you turning kids? Derek was turning kids. They're all 15 to 17 years old. Boyd, Erica, and Isaac are. So it's like you are turning children. And may I remind you, Derek is 22. I think a year has passed, so he's about 23. He's a college student. Like, and if he's not in college, he's basically a young adult, and you're turning children. Well, teenagers. You're turning teens. Young teens. That's not good. Like, that's not good at all. Okay, so we did them. Now we're gonna go on to the main villain of season 2. Season 2 is like season 1, where you have a sub villain and you have an actual villain. So for season 1 had Kate Argent, but they had Peter. But if I'm gonna be honest, in my humble opinion, I feel as though Peter was a sub villain and Kate Argent was the real one. Because without Kate Argent doing all this shit, Peter wouldn't have done all that shit. If Kate hadn't have burned down his family's house, he would not do any of the shit. Like, at all. If she hadn't have came back into town, Peter would be forced to have to go outside of Beacon Hills to murder the actual villain of the family. Or the Argents and whatnot. I forgot the Argents lived in Beacon Hills at the time. So he would be doing this revenge quest, but he would still have to go to the main source of the one who killed the family. He would have to go outside Beacon Hills. So he wouldn't no longer be in Beacon Hills anymore. Anyway, after he kills every Argent there was in Beacon Hills, he'd have to go outside of it. Because Kate did not live in Beacon Hills at the time. She moved back to Beacon Hills to visit Allison and for Chris, because there was more werewolves being rampant in Beacon Hills. So yeah. So sub-villain, actual villain. Season 2, it has Mason, the photographer. And the actual villain is Gerard Argent. So we're going to get into Mason's whole thing. Mason, when he was a kid, I would have to say around 14, 15. It is weird to call them kids when they're already kids. But let's just say 13, like middle school, because they're in high school. Middle school Mason. Middle school Mason was kind of like a water boy or a towel boy, because it was a swim team and whatnot. Mason could not swim. They did a prank on him, the swim team did, where they pushed him into the pool, into the deep end. He almost died, bro. Like, it was showing it and everything was like fading to black because he literally was dying. And they were laughing. He even says it. He says it exactly like that. I was dying and they were laughing. And it was like, damn. You know, it made me feel sick for him. I see why he wanted to kill all their ass. Like, shit, who wouldn't want to? Like, you laughing at me almost being deceased? Off with your head right now, bro. Like, that type shit. So, what happened and why he didn't die from that? Who saved him was Isaac's father, the coach. However, the reason why I don't see him in a good light, not only is he an abuser, he's also a manipulator and someone who threatens people. He threatened Mason that he would throw him back into the water later on in life if he were to ever reveal what happened that night. So Mason has every right to be fucking mad, pissed off, and want to kill them. Mason made a plan long ago that he wanted to murder all these people who had did that shit to him, laughed at him, and he wanted to murder Coach. So he was given an opportunity through the form of Jackson. Let's talk about Jackson real quick before we get back to the main plotline. Jackson wanted to be a werewolf. He was not only scratched by Peter in season 1, he was bit by Derek. He became an entirely different being, bro. He became a Kanima. A Kanima is a creature that's more like a reptile, you know? He basically cannot think for himself. That type of creature, they don't have an identity. They don't know themselves, bro. They need a master to tell them what to do because they cannot think for themselves. They're that confused with their own being, right? So it's a reptile appearance. They have venom in their fangs and in their tail. It's kind of like a liquid substance, like milky white. That sounds odd. Milky white that comes out of them. I'm sorry. But yes, that's what the Kanima is. It has Kanima venom. It has claws. It has fangs. It doesn't look like them though. It literally looks like a reptile. So it's like all that. It can climb on walls like it's fucking Spider-Man, and it's like all that type shit. So yeah, even the eyes are different too. So it's like you can't call this thing a werewolf. It's not a werewolf anymore, you know? And it's a shapeshifter too. How they explain it is that werewolves are shapeshifters, and they can take on forms that may look akin to a werewolf or not much like a werewolf. Deucalion is a villain we're going to talk about later, where he can contort his face into more of a demon-like thing. And even the Beast of Jebaddon that I mentioned in my other video, it's blue. It's blue. It's gymongous. Like baby, it's big as fuck. Okay, so it's like you can change your form to look more monstrous if you yourself are monstrous in your being. Peter Hell was out of his fucking mind. He was a rabid dog, and he has the Hell bloodline, like blood coursing through his veins. So he was a big ass animal. And I'll tell you about my theory with the Hell Pack later on. Okay, but child, anyways, that's Jackson. Jackson's a Kanama. He's a completely different creature now. So it's like he needs a master. He needs someone to command him. So he wanted to borrow Mason's camera to record himself turning into a werewolf. He wants to be a werewolf so bad, yo. He wants to be stronger, faster, all that. Season 1, Scott saw being a werewolf as a curse, whereas Jackson saw it as an opportunity. So Jackson in season 2 had the camera, paid Mason for the camera, recorded himself, all that. And he did not think that he turned into anything at the end. And I'm telling you about why. He did turn into something. He turned into the goddamn Kanama, which looked crazy. He was like, like in the camera was glitching. I was just like, ugh, what the fuck is that? He went outside, right? Because Mason was parked outside. He never left. He actually never left the house. He didn't know that Jackson was going to become a Kanama. He thought that Jackson was borrowing the camera to watch Korn, like to film Korn of himself. So that's why he sticked around and stuff like that. But he was just chilling, and he saw in his mirror something green, and it was Jackson in Kanama form. Jackson in Kanama form is confused. They don't know who they are, right? So the first person that Jackson sees is Mason, and Mason becomes his master. They connected in a way, like touching hands through the car window shit, like, you know, kind of like this and shit. So they connected. He used Jackson to murder the coach, Isaac's father. Isaac, after basically having an entire glass mug thrown at his fucking face, hitting the wall, cutting his cheek and shit like that, because his father's an abusive a-hole, right? Isaac left. Did I say Jackson or Isaac? I hope I didn't say Jackson. I meant Isaac. Isaac left the house. And this was earlier, by the way. This was a lot earlier. So, you know, Jackson was not in Kanama form during this episode. Just yet. We get to see him later on. But Isaac left the house. He literally ran away. And his father went into the car and was trying to find where the fuck he was at, right? So it was raining. It's like you could barely see. His father wears glasses too, by the way. So he has to constantly get the water out of his eyes. He like saw a random alley and he saw somebody was there and he was thinking, oh shit, that's my son, right? And it was raining, so he couldn't actually see and it was foggy and shit. He got out the car and just like, Isaac! It was not Isaac. Baby, it was Jackson. It was Kanama Jackson. So Kanama Jackson killed Isaac's father, which good riddance. I didn't really give a fuck. But child, anyways, I can't. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Bitch, nah, off with his head. Yes. So we get into afterwards with that. His father's deceased. Isaac mainly is at Derek's place. Like after his father's gone, it's kind of like he's in that weird stage where he's not grieving. He's kind of like he don't know how to feel. You know, he just kind of, it's like, you know, do you grieve to that? I mean, the man, he abused him he punished him multiple times for no reason. He was a monster. Of course, Isaac was a bit sad, but he kind of played it off as if he wasn't really sad. You get to see later on in season 2 about the whole thing. But continuing on, you know, it's kind of like Mason's just scratching off his hit list of people to do that shit to. So we're going to get off that for a second with that storyline. We're going to go back to Derek and his pack real quick. Derek and his pack are like, you know, he's basically using them for extra power and whatnot. He's going to train them. The full moon is coming and whatnot. So yeah, when they get heed that a Kanama is there, right? A Kanama exists. Derek was scared. Like, he was terrified, bitch. Like, he was just like, oh, what the fuck is that? And I'm gonna tell you real quick, season 2 is really weird. It has a lot of things that I feel like should not have been in it, okay? It was like, bringing Peter back, for instance. Yes, Peter Hell comes back. How? I don't fucking know. Nah, just kidding. I'm playing with you. Peter Hill comes back in a weird ass ritual, which is like I said, I say it later on in the video, but I'm gonna just tell you my theory before I go further in. Actually, I'm gonna finish with that. Peter Hill gets brought back by a weird ritual because he used Lydia. He went into Lydia's head, and since he bit her, it's kind of like he unlocked a bunch of powers that she has. I'm not gonna tell you what she is until I go into episode season 3 of this. But he unlocked a bunch of powers he had. He was able to get into her head, and he basically kind of hypnotized her. Like she was kind of like seeing him, a younger version of him, repeatedly till she realized it was Peter Hill. And then she threw a party and whatnot. She had laced the punch with Wolfsbane and shit. And basically she used Derek, lured him into the old burnt down house, blew some Wolfsbane in his face, cut him, had the blood streaking through the floorboards and whatnot, and it unlocked Peter Hill. Peter Hill was buried in the floorboards of the house, I think. So when she cut him and the blood dripped through the floorboards, it like she did some symbols on the wall as well too. It brought back Peter Hill. It's fucking weird, I know, right? What in the Vampire Diaries type shit is this? But yeah, that's what really occurred, right? And then I'm gonna go into my theory of it all. I feel as though the Hell Pack are an elite pack of werewolves. They're an elite family. They come from probably a long line of supernatural creatures, and that is why their family has more things than others. Like his mom is an evolved werewolf. She can legitimately turn into an actual wolf, and it may not be that big. It's the size of a regular wolf, but it's a black wolf with red eyes. That's his mom's form that she can turn into. She has the power to remove people's memories and whatnot. And this is all her as an alpha, by the way. I don't know if she can do this as a beta, but she definitely did all this as an alpha. When Peter became an alpha, he took on the form of a formidable, hellish looking werewolf, bro. His size was humongous, you know. He was basically more monster than men. Like I said, they're shapeshifters and whatnot, you know. And he was incredibly fast. Like he was too fast. He was more fast than any regular werewolf, bro. Any alpha, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I think he was faster than any other alpha, bro. But yeah, and all of this as an alpha. Derek as an alpha, I feel as though we could have seen more from him. But he was able to bring his sister from near death later on in seasons using his alpha power. He gave most of his power to her, and I don't think any regular alpha can do that. I don't know if they can, you know. But we see in later seasons he becomes an evolved werewolf. He turns into a full werewolf with blue eyes. How is he able to do that? They don't ever explain that, oh, normally they can do that. No. Werewolves can't normally do that shit. Only a Hell family member can. And it doesn't make it better. Well, it does make it better. My theory is made better because Tati, Derek's mother, is like the main werewolf, main alpha that people in Beacon Hills used to go to. Supernatural beings used to go to her for guidance if they didn't have their like witch friends on the side. I never mentioned druids. I'm not fun to mention druids right now. Okay, this video is already pretty long. It's probably gonna be well over an hour and 20 minutes probably. I'm sorry to tell y'all this shit, but if y'all interested, keep going. But y'all, anyways, Tati was seen as a god among werewolves, bro. A goddess among werewolves, bro. Many alphas went to her for guidance, bro. She was the big kahuna for real. And that is Derek's mom, the alpha of the Hell Pack family. My theory is literally that they're royalty. They're literally royalty of werewolves. It makes so much sense. It's not really that much of a theory to where it's just like, oh yeah, no one could have guessed this. Not that type shit. It's more so like, yeah, I can see why you think like that type thing. Not like a, oh my gosh. It's more of an obvious theory, kind of. A bit of an obvious one. But anyways, we go back to the main plot line. So Derek being afraid of hearing the news of Kanima and having Peter Hill back, Peter Hill searches up what a Kanima is using like online bestiary. And they basically find out, this is how we get our information, that it needs a master, it doesn't have its own identity, and that it can evolve. Yes, it can evolve. Like a damn Pokemon, yes. And by what I mean by evolve is, it has the tail. It can grow wings. So not only does it have the venom, the tail, the fangs, the claws, it can grow wings. It won't even need a master to do it. It will no longer need a master in its evolved form. It literally will actually realize itself. So it can be its own monster. Bitch, we can never let this occur. Like that type of thing. That's what Derek was thinking. He was just like, we can never let this occur, bro. We gotta train to become stronger than this piece of shit. We gotta find out who the human version is so that we can kill the human version before the cannibal version comes out. So he was training them for that. He was training them for that. He's also training Erica, Isaac, and Boyd for another purpose, but that's for season 3A. So, child, anyways, training them for the full moon and whatnot. But it's like there was not enough time to train them because after he found out about the cannibal one, he realized that he has to basically train them more in fighting, more so than like trying to control themselves. So it was difficult. He's a born werewolf. He told like Scott in season 1 that it's much harder to train or to teach a made werewolf how to control their powers when he himself is not a made werewolf. He is a born werewolf. It's kind of like he has to learn from when he is a literal 4-year-old all the way up to an adult how to control being a werewolf because he's literally born a werewolf. God damn it, he's born with the nature to kill. He's born supernatural. So it's like it's kind of hard to teach a made werewolf how to do some shit that you basically get naturally like that or are taught at a young age. So yeah, full moon comes and whatnot. They gotta basically restrain themselves and whatnot. Derek puts chains around them. He puts this metal thing around Erica. Erica is strong as fuck. That's another personality thing too. Erica is bold. Like she's bold and she's brave. Like dead ass. They have this contraption where it's like nails going into the head, and that shit hurt. She was screaming. The actress, she needed a raise because that scream was like. I can't scream right now because I'm in a building, so it's like, but that woman was howling, bro, because he had to screw it in, and it was like multiple screws around this like band, the circular band, right? So as he screwed the top, it was screwing into her skull, right? And it's like, I guess it was the pain is so that she can become stronger, and it restrains her more from, I guess, being more insane. Moon means Luna. Lunatic. They turn into lunatics when the full moon rises. So when it came, it's like Erica and Boyd were just insane. Like she ripped that shit off out of her head and some shit like that. They were really about to go and chomp at Derek for real. Derek's face the whole time, he was like calm, but he was just kind of like he looked confused. I was just like, bitch, what are you confused about? You thought this shit would work? Like, I can't. And they're no longer inside of his old house, by the way, the burnt down house. He's in an abandoned train station kind of thing. So yeah, so they were doing it in that. And Isaac also was losing his damn mind too. But then that's how it shows Isaac had more control than Erica and Boyd, Isaac was the one that was actually trying to restrain Boyd and Erica, even while he had his form out and was kind of being affected by the moon as well too. He was learning to master it. How you master being like, the full moon, like master your form and stuff like that, you have to have an anchor. You have to have someone or something holding you together and reminding you of your humanity. Now for Isaac, his was his dad's, which I was just like, but I understood why. He even explains, like, Derek asked him what his anchor was. Isaac said it was his dad. And then Derek literally was reminding Isaac, just like, dude, he locked you in a cooler for nights, bro. Like, you had to claw your way. We saw the claw marks. Him and Scott went to Isaac's house when they were trying to find Isaac. I think something happened in season 2. There's a lot that happened in season 2. It's so much shit. I'm sorry. But, yeah, so he told Isaac about that. And Isaac, like, Derek was basically saying, like, your dad's a monster. But it's just like, Isaac was like, he was not always like that. And his anchor was remembering his dad when his dad was not an abuser. And I was just like, that is really sad. So it kind of shows you that he never forgot about his dad's death. And it's not like he didn't care when his dad died. It's more so that he is trying to, like, put on a cool and calm demeanor so that he doesn't break apart. He is kind of a broken character. Like, he has a lot of grief in him. So he still remembers his dad from when his dad was good. And even when his dad is dead, he doesn't like, oh, spit on his grave. No, he still remembers the good times about his dad, and that's what kept him a human, you know. So it's like, damn, you know. So while this is all happening, there's still a bunch of killings because the Kanima is killing people, but it's doing it off of the command of Mason. Mason is having this fucking creature kill everybody, okay? But it's on a list, so it's specific people, specific members of the swim team. So yeah, we finally get to who it is. Actually, there's a moment where I think after the whole full moon situation or whatnot, I think that's, ooh, is it before or after? Probably told it out of order. Trying to remember it. Hold on. Full moon happened later on in the series. Okay, so it happened around episode 7 or episode 8. Each episode has 12 episodes. Each season has 12 episodes. I'm sorry. But full moon thing happened later on. I'm gonna tell you about what happened around episode 4, episode 5, I think. So they were trying to find out, Derek and his pack were trying to find out who was the Kanima. They thought it was Lydia, because Lydia actually legitimately was bit. They saw the bite mark on her. With Jackson though, like they didn't think it was him, basically. If I'm be honest with you, I think Derek thought he was dying because Jackson had some type of reaction to where he was like sneezing and coughing up black blood, basically. So it was like, or some type of black goo. So I think Derek honestly thought that Jackson was dying. So it's like, so he thought it was Lydia. They all thought it was Lydia. And there's a moment in class earlier on in that episode before they went to the house to where there was Kanima venom on their science project. They basically made edible crystals in the classroom, and Isaac had laced it with Kanima venom. Now you may be thinking, why would Isaac be okay to do this? Why would Erica be okay with doing this? Okay, so Isaac mentioned this. This is a side detail and whatnot. Isaac deadass was just like, yeah, I tried to ask her out during the 3rd grade, and she said that I'm too poor for her. Like, I was like, bro, okay, I see why you don't like this bitch. How you go clown somebody and say that they too poor for you? Like, you ain't shit for real. She's so shallow. I can't. So Lydia tried it, and she did not have any effect to the venom. It did not kill her. So it's like, okay, maybe she is the Kanima, because how would you be affected by your own venom? Maybe you can, I don't know. But yeah, shit, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so it kind of low-key confirmed that it may be Lydia. So they went over to the house. I think Lydia was inside Scott's house. I think they were all inside Scott's house. It was Allison, it was Styles, and it was Lydia. Jackson was also there too. So they were trying to protect Jackson and Lydia, mostly Lydia, right? So Lydia and Jackson go up to the room. This is at a time where they're broken up, by the way. They broke up in season 1, and Jackson is just repeatedly being a dick to her. He's asking for the keys to his house back and whatnot, because he has keys, but he gave her spare keys and whatnot during the time when they were having a good time in their relationship. He asked for them back, right? He's been asking for them back, and he's a Kanima, and Kanimas are similar to werewolves, but they're not like werewolves. He was getting angry. He could hear her heartbeat, and she was saying she don't have him. And he was just like, I know you're lying, because he could hear her heartbeat, and it was like skipping and shit like that. So they had a bit of a moment where she finally gave him back the keys, and they shared a little bit of eye contact, and he was just like, he felt like he was being too much of a piece of shit, so he was just like, Lydia. And like, he was sad about it. But then something was occurring to where he was turning into a Kanima now. And I think his master was calling him, that's why he turned into that Kanima and whatnot. So Derek sent Erica and Isaac one by one into the house. They both got bodied. Shit, they both got bodied, baby. Lord have mercy. Bite some stronger kids next time, please. Not just kidding. I'm being a bitch, but like, I'm not being a bitch. I'm being a good person, civilized individual. Anyways, Kanima, Jackson left and all that, and I'm gonna fast forward. So we're fast forward back to episode 7 and 8. Where full moon was happening at the same time this was occurring. They were at the police station. Mason was at the police station actually with Jackson, because I think it was one of them was arrested or some shit like that. Scott went there with Styles and whatnot, and Mason just went batshit crazy. He had a gun in his hand. He had Jackson who was partially transforming and whatnot, and like, you know, there's a moment where Derek finally comes in after he basically holds everybody hostage and whatnot. He has Melissa, Scott's mom, and the sheriff, Styles' dad, jailed and whatnot, basically trapped and whatnot. And he does that, you know, and he tries to show the parents that you think your kids are like okay, you think your kids are normal, watch this. Like, look at this shit. And it's like, you know, he's trying to show the parents that your kids are supernatural. They're not humans anymore. Like, they're something entirely else. Like, you know, all that. Derek comes in and whatnot. Instantly, he is, when the venom hits you, it's like it what's the word for it? Damn, makes you go still. Makes you, paralyzes you. It paralyzes you. So paralyzed Derek. Styles says something witty as fuck, and then Kenema Jackson paralyzed them, and then he called Mason a bitch. He was just like, "Oh, you bitch!" Like, I was just like, "That's so funny." And then he was basically on top of Derek because they're both paralyzed. He can't really move him out the way. So yeah, they basically go into there. What Mason wants, I forgot exactly what he wanted. I think he wants the rest of the names to, like, on the list to be killed off and whatnot. And Scott's trying to reason with him. Then he explains his villain origin story where he basically was drowned. Everybody laughed at him. The coach saved him, but the coach threatened him. And basically, it's like, it's all that. Like, you know, it's really, it sucks. So, what else? He wants those other people dead, but I think he also wanted a car to, like, get away and whatnot because the police, I think some backup was coming or some shit like that. All that. Who saved them in that moment? Because I think it was Isaac who came and saved them. Somebody came and saved them. Damn, it's been a while. I see why. Okay, so remember when I said that Lydia had poisoned the dance that she was at, right? Everybody was at this dance. Even Mason. I don't know why the hell was Mason at this dance. It didn't seem like he's a nerd. I don't know why he was at. She invites everybody, basically. Anybody can come in. Even people that are poor. Like, they can come in, which is odd. She's shallow. I didn't think she would allow just that about anybody, but she did. But they were at this. They were all poisoned by the wolfsbane. So it's kind of like acted like a, I don't want to say psychedelic. It made them beyond drunk, actually. It made them crazy. They threw Mason into her pool. He is afraid of water. He's afraid of water, bro. So after they did this, everybody laughed. It was like a repeat of what happened when he was a kid, when he was younger. Who saved him out the water was Jackson. Like that, he was actually telling everybody, like, hey, I can't swim, but they weren't listening to him because they're drunk off a wolfsbane punch. So Jackson got him off of there, and it's kind of like the way Jackson looked. He looked confused. Not confused, he looked focused, like he wasn't all the way there. So it's like he pulled Mason out the water, and then Mason, like, stormed out the way, and then something happened. I think the police were called and everybody had to leave. Outside was Mason, and then Jackson just on the floor with his tail wrapping in the air, and Mason was pissed. He wanted their blood for real. So that's what led up to them being in the sheriff's office and whatnot, being held hostage by Mason with a gun, and then all that type shit. Someone helped them get out and whatnot, and then at the end, Mason met his end by Gerard. Like I said, sub-villain, actual villain. Gerard, earlier in the season, showed that he was not afraid of the Kanema. He had no fear going up against that thing. He looked at the Kanema as it was probably about to kill him, and he ain't having no expression. He wasn't scared. He was waiting for it to kill him, by the way. I was just like, by the way he looked, it's like he waited for it to end his suffering. Like, the fuck? So, yeah, you know, it shows later on, though, that Gerard killed Mason by drowning him. He killed him by drowning him. It was horrible. I was like, that is awful, bro. Why he literally met his end by literally what has been repeatedly happening to him. He was about to die earlier when he was, like, early in his life when he was drowned. He was thrown into a pool again during a party, and now he's being drowned by an old-ass, geriatric-ass man. You know, you're wondering where Jackson is? He was there. Jackson was there. He was in cannibal form, by the way. And I forgot to tell you, like, the master, that connection I told you about earlier with the hands pressed together, their connection goes so far as to the Kanema not having a fear of water. Like, there's a moment where the Kanema, it can't even touch the water. It, like, touches it and then it hisses, like, type shit. Because Mason's afraid of water, the Kanema's afraid of water. So, Kanema Jackson is seeing Mason being drowned and Mason's dying quickly and whatnot. And it can't go into the water to save him because it's afraid of fucking water. So it's like, okay. So he's underneath the dock. Kanema Jackson's underneath the dock. Once Gerard officially kills him, right? By the way, Mason's 15. So he's a child. So Gerard doesn't give a fuck, like I told you earlier. When Gerard does this, he looks over and already knows that Kanema Jackson is close by. He locks eyes with Kanema Jackson. Kanema Jackson slowly goes over to him and they make a connection. It's kind of like they shook hands damn near. So now we have the worst person in this season has a living weapon. Huh. So what Gerard did. I'm going to tell you about Gerard real quick, right? The question is, did he ever find out that Scott was a werewolf? Yes. He knew the moment that he first met him, I think. Like, after they had dinner, because Scott had dinner with Allison at one point and whatnot, and he was trying to be all charismatic. Like, he was being charismatic. He was being a faker for real. He was just like, what's wrong with her having a boyfriend? It's understandable. It happens. Like, you know, it happens. You know, just, and they were exes at the time. Just an ex having dinner with his ex-girlfriend's family. Like, you know, what's wrong with that? Like, that type shit. So fake, bro. And then, since Scott's mom works at the hospital and whatnot, Scott was there, and then Gerard came up out the mix. He like casually walked up to him and then stabbed him, bro. Like, I was like, whoa. And he was whispering in Scott's head, you know, I can be the nice, kind, geriatric old man who gives, like, you know, gives advice and certain things like that. Or I could be the ruthless hunter that knows who you are. Like, that type shit. Like, this old ass man over here stabbing Scott like he really on some big shit for real. Like, get out of here, bro. So, yes. He makes a deal with Scott, right? Gerard has cancer. And he wants to be bit by the alpha, which was Derek at the time, so that he himself can become a werewolf so that it can delay the effects of the cancer. You know? So yeah, that's why he wants to be a werewolf. He made a deal with Scott about that. Scott's having to help him, right? So he threatens Scott for extra measure. He uses Kanema Jackson to basically wrap Melissa's tail, like wrap the tail around Melissa's throat. He is in his house, in the corner, in like a, you know, a love seat, just in the darkness. And Scott comes in and he's just like, let my mom go. And then Kanema Jackson just tightens the tail around her neck. And then Gerard just like, give me what I want. And it all works well. So yeah, it's crazy, right? So really what I'm trying to say is that he wants the bite from an alpha, but he wanted Scott to kill Derek, to become an alpha himself so that he can bite Gerard so that Gerard can no longer have cancer. I know, right? That's exactly how the show explained it. And that's exactly how the events went. It's confusing as fuck. It's not that confusing when I explain it in deadpan way, but it's so extra. It's too fucking much. Like, you did all this and for what? Like, you know? So, it's like, after that, they get to a point where oh yeah, I forgot to talk about some of the other characters too before I get to the finality of season 2. So some other characters, Allison for instance, her mom. What happened in season 2 was that Allison's mom saw that Scott and Allison were not actually completely broken up. They were sneaking around. They kissed in an empty classroom. Her mom became part of the school again. She was already a teacher in the past, but she became a teacher again. You know, I think a substitute teacher just for one of the subjects. And while the bell was like ringing and whatnot, she saw in an empty classroom her daughter Allison and Scott McCall were making out and whatnot. Her face. Here's a little thing about Allison's mom. Allison's mom dressed like a CEO of a company, but she's supposedly a housewife. Allison's mom slit her forearm with no emotion, with a kitchen knife, just to go to the hospital and try to peep out whether or not Scott's mom knew if Scott and Allison were together. Then Scott's mom tries to give her anesthetic. I think that I'm saying the word wrong. And she's just like, no, I don't need that. Like, just, she patched up the wound. She did not need anything afterwards. Mom is fucking weird. She's Looney Tunes, but I don't know what's wrong with Allison's mama. After seeing that basically her kid and another kid lied to her. She tried to kill Scott. She kidnapped him, put him in a room with a Wolfsbane through a vape machine, basically steam of Wolfsbane coming up out the mix to surround the air and poison Scott, right? So Derek came up in the mix. He basically saved Scott and found where he was located at. You know, he was having a fight against Allison's mom and whatnot. He was also being affected by the steam of the room because it was literally like the whole room was covered in smoke from Wolfsbane. So Scott was slowly dying and whatnot. He couldn't fight against Allison's mom. But Derek fought against Allison's mom and he bit her. He bit her, bro. And he was still an alpha at the time. So Allison's mom was affected and was going to turn into a werewolf. It was also the full moon too, so it made it even worse. Like I said in episode 1, season 1's review, when an Argent is about to turn into a werewolf, they have to end their own life so that they don't turn into a werewolf. That's how their code went. It's stupid as fuck, but it's how it went. So when they went home, Allison had went somewhere. Allison's mom was trying to tell her the whole day that she needed to talk to her, but Allison was being a teenage girl and being selfish and just like, oh my gosh, we could talk later, mom, type shit. So later that night, you know, she told Chris and she told Gerard. I don't know why would you tell Gerard, but anyways, he was reminding her like, you know what you have to do. And Chris couldn't take it. Like, he was overwhelmed with sadness. He didn't cry. He just was so emotional with it. And I understand. And Gerard was just like, hey, go up there and help your wife die with dignity. He's a hypocrite. We're gonna talk about Gerard a little bit afterwards too. He goes up there. He comforts his wife as she's talking about she has to write a suicide letter to her daughter because basically that's what she's doing. She's committing suicide. And she's like, I have to tell her, like, it's causes of depression. And then Chris is just like, yeah, even though I've never seen you depressed in all my years we've been married, I've never seen you depressed. So, I don't know. It's going to have to be convincing. That's what she says. And he holds her, and they watch as the full moon comes from out of the clouds as she plunges the knife into her heart, killing her instantly. It was sad. I was so sad. And then Allison she was oh my gosh, bro. Oh, she was torn. She was broken, bro. She was broken. She's so damn broken. She got an alter ego off that shit. That's how broken she was from her mama dying, bro. It was insanity. And the thing is, after this, they're in the room. Gerard kind of connects with Allison a bit, you know, trying to tell it like, oh, the real reason is due to Derek's fault and whatnot. Like lies and shit like that. Well, it is. It's not, but it is. So he gives this letter to, like, Allison to, like, you know, kind of have her being more on the side of, like, you should become a hunter more. Like, you know, because your mom died, but she died, like, you know, with honor. And she died because of this person. And he brainwashed her. Basically, she became more ruthless. Because there's a moment to where she literally hunts down Erica and Boyd. Because Erica and Boyd didn't want to be part of Derek's pack anymore. It was becoming too much. They had to fight a Kanima when they were just trying to be cooler versions of themselves. Like, bro, they had to fight a fucking supernatural creature. They had to hide away from hunters. They had to do extra shit. And it's like they did not sign up for this shit. Like, at all. And he didn't even tell them about all the extra shit they would have to do as being a werewolf. But... and their kids too, so it's kind of like they didn't think in their head it would be that much, so they're trying to run away. She literally is like, there's a point where they're in the woods, she's literally like not letting off the rip of arrows and is repeatedly shooting Boyd, bro. And Erica's just like, stop, like that type shit. She's screaming for Allison to stop because she's almost killing Boyd. So what stopped her was Chris, her father. She's so damn disrespectful to her fucking father. I don't like how Allison was with her dad. I really don't. Yeah, he was strict, bitch, but at least he gave a fuck. Your grandfather does not care about you, like, at all. So, anyways, she was just like, why'd you stop me? Like, that type shit, like, why'd you stop me? Like, emo bitch, like, I can't. But she listens to her grandfather more. She listens to him more. They go on separate hunts together and type shit. She's kind of against her father. Like, she basically disrespects her father. Like, doesn't even acknowledge him half the damn time. And then the grandfather's just like, what's so bad about that? Going against Chris. He's an asshole. So yeah, he brainwashed Allison, by the way. So Allison she was okay with killing Derek, but because she thought that the mom died from Derek, but she was not okay with Scott dying. Okay, so let's get to the finality. Okay, so after getting Kenema Jackson and after kind of defeating him or whatnot, knocking him out, basically, Gerard shows up at the scene. He's just like, Scott, do you remember our deal? And he does remember his deal. What happens was that Allison's just like, what are you talking about? And everybody's just like, what are you talking about? Scott, oh my gosh, I'm mixing up the names. Scott was just like, yeah, come on. He forced Derek somehow. I think Derek was tired already because he had so many arrows from Allison, I think, because Allison almost killed him. Gerard rolled up his sleeve, held out his arm. Scott picked up Derek and, like, forced his, like, jaw to clamp around Gerard's arm. Now, Gerard thought this shit was gonna work. Baby. It did not. Made him cough up black goo. Then he tried to, like, his cancer had sped up from that. He tried to take his, like, pills from it. It was mountain ash. That's the thing is, he was taking pills for his cancer, right? So the whole time, Scott had mixed it up in the middle of season 2, and it had mountain ash infused into these pills. So, and he got extra help from that to do that, by the way. So the whole time, mountain ash is another thing. It's a barrier against supernatural things. So if you put it on the ground in a circle around yourself, no werewolf will be able to touch you, like that type shit. You just have to be within that circle. They won't be able to harm you at all. That's for supernatural beings. With humans, they can go through it, but supernatural beings, they cannot. Some of them can. Some can, but some can't. His pills had mountain ash in them. So when Gerard was bit by Derek, it's like he still had mountain ash in his system, and how it does, werewolves and mountain ash don't mix. So he is coughing up black goo, and then he checked his pills, and he was just like, mountain ash, like type shit, like mountain ash type shit. And then that's the end for. He basically passed out and whatnot. Think about that. Then with Kenema Jackson kind of thing is, it's like what helped Jackson come back to like his humanity, kind of an anchor. Lydia became his anchor a bit, like, you know, like she kind of willed him back into his senses. And then Derek and Peter is a mess. After he was brought back to life, he was weakened, so he ain't get into the mix. He ain't fight as oftenly because he knew deadass he would lose every fight he was in. So Derek went up behind Kenema Jackson's back as him and Lydia were having a moment. He stabbed him, and then Peter came about the mix out the damn woodworks and shit, and then stabbed him in the front. Derek stabbed him in the back, and essentially it basically damn near killed him. What happened was that, like I said, claws can turn you. So while this happened, was Derek was still an alpha. It had turned Jackson back into a regular werewolf. It's so weird to describe. It's very weird to describe. But yeah, that's what happened. That's the end of it. And then at the very end, Derek goes back to his original burnt down house, and he sees on the door is a spiral made by claws, it seems, into his door. Oh no, was it a spiral or was it a triangle thing? Either or. It was a triangle thing, I think. That's the mark of the alphas. It's a pack of alphas after them. Because when Isaac asked him what the hell was that, he had to tell him, like, it's what's coming. Like, it's what's coming next. It's what's coming next, baby. Now, I want to tell you also, Erica and Boyd, earlier, like I said, they were running away, and Allison had caught them. And Chris Argent, he stopped Allison, and then Erica and Boyd continued running away. I'm going to tell you what they were running away to. Because they weren't just running away from more trouble. They were running to more trouble. But they didn't know it yet. They said that they heard rumors about a pack of alphas or a pack of werewolves out there that they could join another pack. They did not want to be part of Derek's pack anymore. They were just like, man, I want to pack my shit and leave. So they literally did that. They ran to there. It was nighttime. It was in the woods. They were captured by these pack of alphas. They weren't killed. We thought they were killed for a bit, but they were captured by them. And they were used for season 3A. So yeah, so what was on Derek's door was kind of like a warning, like, we're coming for you. They knew where he lived, kind of shit. Like, we know where you live, we know where you're at, and we're coming for you. So be prepared. Like that type shit. Why are they coming for him? I'm gonna just give you a quick little thing. So that is like season 3's review. I won't have to say too much, I guess. They're doing it because they're a pack of alphas. You know, the main kahuna of the alpha pack, he's doing that shit to gain power from them. And they want to recruit Derek. They say they want to recruit Derek. They really want to recruit Scott. But anyways, we're gonna see that. And his name is Deucalion. We're gonna see him. He's gonna be something different, okay? So that's gonna be it for the video. I'm very glad I did this. There are probably some details that I missed out on, but I'm glad that I was able to, you know, wrap it up for you a bit, you know? So that's the end of the video. This was pretty nice. This was pretty nice. Okay. That's it for you guys, and may peace be with you for an eternity.